So Answers in Genesis is back, basically demanding that all the other Christians that aren't as anti-science as they are need to be less rational. So we're going to get into it. I am Brentley, and this is the Punk Apostate. Let's go.
Christians, this video will explain how all of those brilliant scientists could be so wrong for believing in the story of evolution.
Oh, the story of evolution. Got it. Okay, yeah. Why don't you just go full projection and call it the fairy tale of evolution? I know you want to. Just do it. Go ahead. Come on. It's all right. You know, it's not like anything you're doing is less stupid than that and obvious.
A common refrain from Christians who've accepted the story of evolution over billions of years as the way God supposedly created is, are you saying that all of those brilliant scientists are wrong? It's as if they're saying that once a certain threshold of agreement is met within the scientific community, 51%, 75, 90, I don't know, then opposition to what the experts believe is unwarranted.
What are you talking about? Yeah, of course it is. That's the consensus of scholarship that is planet wide. We're not talking like this isn't just just a bunch of guys like sitting around going, you know what, like with cigars, I'll tell you what I think, this is based on nothing. I just like deciding that I'm right like Christians do, that's all I do. I call it faith. Faith and science, but this is me deciding that I'm right without any evidence at all. Like that's not what's happening here. Okay. These are scientists. The evidence is what determines what is scientific or what isn't. It has nothing to do with the scientists that say it. So this whole thing is directed to the Christians that are more normal than the biblical literalists. Look, normal Christians, we really need you guys to stop being so rational because it's making us look really silly over here. Okay.
Christians should just accept these scientists' conclusions and modify their understanding of Scripture accordingly, regardless of what the Bible clearly states. Now, the modified results caused due to the acceptance of deep time and/or evolution upon a Christian's belief in Scripture can be clearly seen when examining their interpretations of the Genesis 1 to 11 text. And the more credence given to the evolutionary story, the more obvious the results become. As a few examples, despite how plainly the biblical text, for example, Exodus 20:11, doesn't support old earth ideas, those old earth creationists who accept a millions or billions of years time frame typically state the following. The days in Genesis weren't literal 24-hour days, rather vast time periods.
Yeah, because they use days as the unit of measurement, and days require certain things to be days in the first place. Things like a sun, I don't know, something like that, because that's how we calculate days. And that wasn't made until the fourth day. The Bible says it was evening and morning 3 times before a fucking sun existed. Of course they have to modify that and be like, oh, this must not be literal because that's silly.
The rock layers were supposedly laid down during these modified 6 days of creation, which includes the fossil record that records death and disease. So creatures were dying before sin came into the world. There was death before Adam's sin.
Like right there, it's like they're proving themselves wrong. They think they're proving the scientist wrong, but they're proving themselves wrong. They're like, hey, because we have so much evidence that things died well before humans got here at all, that, that means that the scientists are wrong because the story with the talking snake and the woman made out of a rib being coaxed into eating a magical fruit is more reliable and more reasonable to believe than actual fossil evidence. How do you think like this? How do you not think like this? I don't know how you do it. Your stupid's hurting my head.
The flood described in Genesis 6 to 9 was a local event, not a global flood.
Yes, because a global flood is literally impossible. It also said there was an ice dome firmament over a flat earth model in the Bible. But you don't accept that now, do you? Almost as if you just cherry pick what you want to rationalize, then hypocritically claim this of more rational Christians that accept evolution. that they acknowledge evolution, because it's not something to believe in or not. You just acknowledge it or you don't. These kind of beliefs are always going to conflict with science, no matter if you're biblical literalist or not. These are beliefs based on an ancient book, based on ancient belief system that was written by Bronze Age sheep herders thousands of years ago. Of course, it's not going to line up to science from 4,000 years in the future. These are people that didn't know how the world worked back then, and they're writing down a story to explain things that they couldn't explain. So it makes perfect sense to update your position based off of the actual evidence, not of the storybook that you want to believe, that you want to just act like is true. It's ridiculous. I don't understand how they can't. They're just so stuck. They're so stuck because they do the faith thing. The faith thing is when you just decide you're right. So, and they are completely stuck on that. They are incapable of updating anything based on new information.
Adam was not the literal first man. Humans evolved from ape-like creatures.
Yeah, it is impossible for a species to come from only two members. Okay, that's impossible. I think the lowest number, if I'm not mistaken, it has to be at least 500. But I think it needs to be, in order for like 500 is the absolute lowest it can get as far as the number of members of a particular species to be able to propagate. But it really needs to be around 1,500.
And the confusion of languages at the Tower of Babel was not a literal event because speech has evolved over millions of years.
The Tower of Babel, where what the king was trying to make a tower to heaven, right? So that he could take over God's throne. And he started making this tower to heaven. And God, of course, was not happy about that. So what did he do? He was like, I'm going to strike y'all with confusion, which apparently that's what Babel means, according to the apologists. And so they all get hit with different languages. They all can't then make the tower any longer. And they all dispersed through, around the world. Back then, again, 3 or 4,000 years ago, that was their way of just explaining, again, something they could not explain at the time, which is why do other cultures, first of all, why do they exist? And why do they speak different languages? They didn't have good answers for these questions. So, and we as a species, we're storytellers, and look at us now with the Marvel films and multiverses and everything else, we are the storytellers of the universe, I think. But as far as the Tower of Babel goes, it's very obviously not literal. What's interesting, though, is there are other cultures that have very similar kinds of stories. In South Australia, a people of Encounter Bay tell a story of how diversity and language came about from, you guessed it. Yeah, I knew you were thinking this. I know. It's cannibalism. Yep, you know it. Yeah, that's it. So in a remote time, an old woman named Waruri, I can't say that name, lived towards the east and generally walked with a large stick in her hand to scatter the fires around which others were sleeping. She would just walk up, see someone sleeping next to a fire, and be like, kick the fire on you. It's like knock the fire with my stick on your sleeping bag. And so the people didn't really like her too much. She was kind of a problem. At one point, she died, and so they sent messengers in all directions to give notice of her death. Men, women, and children came not to lament, but to show their joy. The Raman Gerar were the first who fell upon the corpse and began eating the flesh, and immediately began to speak intelligibly. The other tribes to the eastward arriving later ate the contents of the intestines, which caused them to speak a language slightly different. The northern tribes came last and devoured the intestines and all that remained, and immediately spoke a language differing still more from that of the other two. So they have their own version of this, like, where languages came from kind of question, because this is just why is it like this? And they didn't have any way of figuring it out. So what did they do? They told a story. Why? Because that's what humans do. If you live in this day and age and you ascribe to such poor reasoning as to utilize faith, which is just deciding that you are right about stuff you'd like to think, then yes, you are going to be put in a constant state of rationalizing what you want to be true with what is demonstrably true, right? Like science. You don't have to be in this state of conflict. Let go of the overconfidence that everything in your beliefs are true and honestly acknowledge what you do and do not know, then base your conclusions off of the evidence and just update your conclusions when they are wrong. If you learn to be wrong gracefully, you'll be right more than most. Then you can easily live life without constantly feeling like your reality is in conflict with itself. Believe me, it's freeing. What's this genius yapping about again?
Now, of course, the majority of scientists are evolutionists.
The majority of scientists are evolutionists. First of all, evolutionist isn't a scientific term. It's a pejorative fundies use to vilify those that acknowledge science they don't like. That's why they end up putting all of the science that they don't like into the same bag, and then they just call it all evolution, like abiogenesis, cosmology, and all of these different things. They put it all in anything that's in conflict with their biblical literalism is considered evolution for some reason, even though that's not accurate at all. But of course, scientists and other fields of science acknowledge evolution as a scientific fact because they understand how the scientific method works. Because they could see in all their respected fields how reliable the scientific method is. Is it perfect? Of course not. But it's damn sure fucking better than just deciding that you're right. Logic and evidence be goddamned like faith.
And scientists as a group tend to be much less likely to believe in God or any higher power than the rest of society. For example, research conducted by the Pew Research Center for the People and Press 2009 found that only 33% of American scientists say they actually believe in any specific God whatsoever.
You can just call them theists, man. That's what a theist is. If you believe in a specific God, that you claim to know which one it is, what it wants, how to communicate with it, and all those kinds of details that you couldn't possibly know. You're a theist. If you believe that something created us, but it just doesn't interact with reality at all, or died after it created us, or just flew away, like created stuff and then flew away, that's deist, right? That's a deist position, right? And if you are not convinced that a God exists, you can be either an agnostic and just say that you don't know either way and you don't have any claim one way or the other, or you can be an atheist and say you're not convinced. Really, those things can be one and the same, because being agnostic is more of just a acknowledgement of the fact that we don't know, right? Some people claim knowledge, and that you would call those Gnostic atheists or Gnostic theists, although I'd say that most theists claim to be Gnostic. You know, they love to say that they know. You rarely will hear a Christian be as honest as to say, "Oh, I don't know either way, but I kind of feel like Christianity's true." They try to beat that out of you pretty quick when you're growing up. It's like, no, you say you know. You say you know. Okay. And then you're like, how do you know? And they're like, just shut up. Don't ask me that. Stop with that stuff. Okay. I know. So, and really, because agnostic to Gnostic is more about knowledge. If you know something or don't know something, right? That's agnostic to Gnostic. Um, and then atheist is just the rejection of the claim a God exists, right? So you can be agnostic and say, I don't know if a God exists or not, because I'm trying to be honest. Really, just like a teapot orbiting Mars, that could be there. It's not, I can't check necessarily, and it could be there. Maybe nobody's seen it, right? But I got no reason to think that it is there, right? That's how you come to that conclusion, right? So atheist is the conclusion, right? Agnostic is kind of like how you get to that conclusion, or just kind of the honesty about what we do and do not know, while also coming to the conclusion that we're not convinced that a God exists. It's not necessarily a truth claim. People try to throw that on us a lot because they want so badly to put their kind of irrational confidence on us when we are just typically, and when I say us, I'm talking about skeptics, right? That we're just saying we don't know, like how the world works necessarily. We're trying to figure it out. That's the position that we start with. We don't know. We're trying to do the best we can to figure out how this world works, how it functions, how it got here, all those questions. We're honestly trying to figure those out. And we're not just deciding that we're right. We're going to keep updating our positions given new information because that's how you think. That's how thinking works, you know? And they refuse to do that. They do the exact opposite. And then they claim that we do what they do, which is just confidently claim that we're right. Evidence and logic be goddamned.
The majority are atheists or agnostic. Having said that, let's just go along with the idea that Christians should accept what the majority of scientists believe.
So this sounds a lot like a guilt by association type of situation. And he keeps on saying that it's just what scientists believe, which is not the case, right? That's not how this works. That's why we have peer review. It's not about what the scientists believe. It's about what the scientists can prove, or at least what the scientists can provide as much evidence, and logical evaluation of such evidence to come to reasonable conclusions while providing a model, a scientific model that can be updated as we gather new information. That's how science works, you know? The thing is, they are all about projection. They think because they just decide what is true, that means that that's what all science does. So that's just so obviously not what's happening here. It's all about what you can demonstrate to be the most likely conclusion that you should come to based on the evidence and logical evaluation of such. That's it. It doesn't matter about what the scientists believe. Scientists have all sorts of different beliefs, right? But that's not science. It's about what the scientists demonstrate and then say, hey, here's all the evidence. I'm going to put this up on peer review, right? And then the entire planet's worth of scientists in that respected field can read through that, what they have put in peer review, how they came to those conclusions, right? And then recreate their work to check and make sure that they're right and didn't miss anything, and maybe even add in a couple new variables so that they can be like, oh, maybe they didn't think about this. Maybe they didn't think about testing it in this way. So I'll test it that way. Maybe they didn't do it that way. So, and then everybody's testing the same stuff, and then everybody's kind of going, hey, what is the most reliable conclusions we can come to based on everybody's experimentation? It has nothing to do with the beliefs of the scientists. It has everything to do with the evidence and the results of the experimentation, and a logical evaluation of the results of every experiment. It does make a lot of sense why answers in Genesis would have to basically project and claim that the scientists are the ones that are just believing stuff, that's just totally irrational, right? They're just making stuff up, because really they're all atheists, or at least 66% of them are atheists. So can we really trust what 66% of atheists actually say about stuff? We know they just want to sin. We know it, So what are they doing? They're all lying together. That's what they're doing. You know why? Because they hate God. That's what's happening here. The scientists just hate God, and so that's that's what they're doing. So they all just decide that our God isn't true, and then they have faith. They have faith that our God isn't real, just like us, but the opposite. Just like us, but the opposite. They have to believe that. Of course they do. It's this dogmatic thought process that Christians really have to believe because they do it. They dogmatically believe things. They have a bunch of beliefs that they refuse to question and refuse to update ever, no matter what evidence is demonstrated to them. Right. And so they have to assume that everybody that doesn't think like them actually does think like them and is being just as dishonest with themselves as they are being. There's no other way for them to rationalize around all of their irrational beliefs. They have to make it make sense, just like this guy. But hey, if you want some senseless sex, go to adamandeve.com. AdamandEve.com. Enter code word Brently, Brently, at checkout to get 50% off almost any one item. 6 free movies, 3 free gifts, and free shipping on the entire order. Just go to AdamandEve.com, enter code word Brently, that's Brently, at checkout to get your exclusive offer. Get your butt some stuff, get other people's butts some stuff, and make a salad. That's an inside joke from the Discord. Anyway, it's a whole thing. But go, yeah. And if you want to, it'd be great if you could like and subscribe. We do appreciate that, and it always helps to push the show out there. So if you could like and subscribe, if you want to go and comment below if I get anything wrong, and you can provide evidence that I am wrong, that isn't just a Tim Pool YouTube video, you know what I mean? Um, then I will update my position because I actually want to think true things. That's how thinking works. I actually want to believe what is actually true. I don't want to just have beliefs that I refuse to question. Anyway, so let me know if I'm wrong, is my point. Patreon.com/punk apostate. If you want to become a patron, we really appreciate it. Okay. I'm trying to put new stuff up there as often as I can. And everything up there is extra, right? It's all stuff that you won't find on this channel. But if you want to just do a one-time payment on Cash App, our cash tag is punk apostate, all one word. And yeah, we'd really appreciate the support. Quick reminder that this weekend I will be going on the Kentucky Atheist show. And so that'll be a lot of fun. It's on, I want to say on Sunday around 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure to check that out. Also, coming up, if you check on Growing Up Fundy, the Skeptic University is a project that a bunch of us creators have been working on for quite a little bit of time. So it's something that really is important to us. So if you want to head over to Growing Up Fundy on Sydney Davis Jr.'s channel, and then yeah, it's really great. A lot of awesome creators made a lot of really cool courses for Skeptic U. I had one on there about addiction, so that was kind of fun because of course that's what I'm familiar with, right? As the punk apostate, right? So yeah, if you want to check that out, that'd be really great. But the main thing though, stay logical, loving, skeptical, and compassionate, and we'll see you next time.